Tell me a little bit too about the millennials. You know, where everyone talks about the millennials these days, and I know you call them the young and the restless. What do you really see that's different right now in terms of how they're leading and the kind of leadership they expect?
Well, that's interesting. I think that, you know, there are a lot of things that we know about this demographic, and we know it because they are very favorable toward cities. Turns out that by 2000, they were 33% more likely than other Americans to live within a 3-mile radius of the central business district. Mm-hmm. And that trend occurred all over America in the most unlikely cities. So that's one reason we're so interested in this generation. Mm-hmm. What I think has begun to become apparent as well is that they have a different set of values. And cities are going to have to make good on those values, or they're going to lose those people in that generation who are mobile, who are able to move. And by the way, they're the most mobile Americans as well. And the more education they have, the more mobile they are. So I think that, again, what we're seeing, and I'm no expert on managing them by any means, but I do think that giving them quick opportunities, letting them influence the business, particularly I think the marketing and the offerings. I think there's so much more of an authentic voice desired and accepted there. You know, irony is big, going around something, the hard sell doesn't work. So finding, I think, using them to inform, again, your product offering as well as the way you communicate that offering is smart.
Yeah, and what are some of the values that you've seen? You mentioned different values.
You know, let me speak to it from my standpoint. Sure. Considering that I work with cities, I think one of the things we're seeing is very much a focus on transit, as an example. Just the way people, I think, transit, which reflects a sharing culture, which reflects a non-ownership culture. I mean, there are a lot of things going on here. Smaller living units, you know, in the city. I mean, there are a lot of things that we're beginning to see real differences in terms of how that generation, 25 to 34-year-olds, particularly college-educated 25 to 34-year-olds, which is where we focused our research. There are many ways in which they're very different. And
we see this in companies where sharing information is a very different thing.
Yes.
In you know, a lot of companies are struggling with that too, in terms of the idea of holding on to either intellectual property or just general information, and the shock of, oh my gosh, all these kids are out there on Facebook. But it is interesting as you think about it, as you're mentioning transit, and it's that whole comfort with lower boundaries.
Yes.
And it is more of a community feeling.
Yeah. And I think that's going to change communities dramatically, and again, the ones that catch up to what's happening and respond to it are going to be the winners, and I think the same is true with companies.